Hey guys, it's Kevin again. This is going to be another classic movie review, and this movie that I'm going to be reviewing, I wasn't planning on reviewing this for a while. I was actually thinking I was review this like in June or July, but I found out today is actually Al Pacino's birthday, so I said, okay, I have to watch an Al Pacino movie. This movie has been sitting on my Blu-ray shelves for months now, just like all that jazz, and I'm like, I need to watch this movie. I'm like, no, I gotta wait for classic movies. There was a time when I even was gonna watch it and review it to you guys regardless of the fact that I was done with classic movies. And I didn't do that, and now I'm going to finally review it, and that movie is the 1983 biographical crime drama classic, Scarface. Finally, I can review Scarface. Now, I was actually planning on not reviewing this movie originally. I was thinking, okay, what about Carlito's Way, Scent of a Woman, Dog Day Afternoon? Problem is, I don't have any of those films on Blu-ray, and they're not on Netflix or HBO or anything like that, and I don't want to watch an Unsolar movie, because do you really want to watch an Al Pacino movie on Solar movie? No, you really don't want to do that. So I said, you know what, I'm going to watch Scarface. I don't care that I was planning on reviewing it back in June. I'm actually very happy I watched Scarface. This is actually one of the ones I've been looking forward to watching the most. Ever since I watched The Godfather and Goodfellas, I've been very interested in seeing more gangster movies like those, and I heard this is actually very close to those movies. And after watching Scarface, what did I think of Scarface? Scarface is an absolute masterpiece. I love this movie. There are a lot of things I didn't know about this movie that I was very happy that I didn't know about, and I'm going to get to some of the things I didn't know about it, but let's get to the plot of Scarface. The plot of Scarface is actually pretty simple. Basically, we have, it focuses on the true story of Cuban refugee Tony Montana, who he basically arrives in 1980s Miami with practically nothing pretty much, and he ends up working with his best friend Manny and their associates Angel and Chi-Chi, and basically in exchange for assassinating a former Cuban government official at the request of wealthy drug dealer Frank Lopez, basically they're released from the camp and given green cards, and they basically go on to be you know, these gangsters and everything, and these, like, mobsters, and it also kind of shows the complications in Tony's life and his eventual rise to power to become a very powerful drug kingpin, and that's basically a plot of Scarface, and kind of like his rise to power, and that's basically a plot. Now, it's pretty easy to understand, but, it sounds a lot harder to understand than it actually is. I'm gonna get to how easy it is to understand, but first, let's get to the acting in this movie. Now, the acting in this movie is one of the things that makes this movie as good as it does, honestly. The acting is so good in this movie, and let's talk about Al Pacino, because of course it is his birthday, which, happy birthday Al Pacino, happy like 70-something birthday, I know he's like 76 or something like that, but Al Pacino in this movie, this is by far, out of every, okay, I haven't seen every Al Pacino performance, I know I haven't seen Dog Day Afternoon, Scent of a Woman, I've seen quite a few movies from Al Pacino, but out of what I've seen, this is Al Pacino's best performance. And let me explain why it's his best performance. He is completely unrecognizable in this role. The second that you see Tony Montana, you are terrified of him. Honestly, I was terrified of his character the second he came on screen when he's like, I'm Tony Montana, I'm this Cuban immigrant. Like, seriously, that's how he talks, and he's so fucking awesome in the movie. But the thing I love about his character is that he really got into this character. He got into this character of Tony Montana. This guy who eventually thinks he's like the best thing ever, and just becomes, the more wealthy he gets, the more selfish he gets, and it honestly gets really sad with his character. The best part of this movie is actually that you fear his character, but yet you care about his character, and that's just because of how good Al Pacino did in this role. I'm very surprised he didn't get an Oscar nomination, honestly. You think that nowadays, if this were to be a movie, you know, nowadays, if this were to come out, he would get an Oscar nomination, but because when this movie came out, it was actually very controversial, and that's why he didn't get an Oscar nomination, which really sucks, because he should have gotten an Oscar nomination for this movie, because he is awesome in this movie. I think he did a fantastic job. He had such a great presence in this movie, and he was amazing. Steve Bauer as Manny, I thought he was great. He actually had some very funny lines in the movie. He adds a little bit of humor to the movie. Their relationship overall, I definitely really like. One of the things I didn't notice about the movie is that whenever the movie skips time, like does like a week later or a month later, they'll have like a conversation between Tony and Manny in the car, and then they'll cut to like another time, and I think that was really cool the way they did it. Their overall friendship, I think, is one of the, as I said, one of the best parts of the movie. You really care about them as friends, and I definitely really enjoyed their friendship overall. Michelle Pfeiffer's character, Elvira Hancock, the second that you see her, you know that she's going to become Tony's interest. You know that he's going to have an attraction to her, and I thought the chemistry between them was definitely really good. Something I definitely liked about her character is how she changes over the movie. I mean, at first she's like this drug addicted person, but eventually she becomes pretty normal and actually starts to resent Tony for what he did. And I thought her character was really good. I'll talk about what happens in the spoilers with that, but I thought she did a really good job with her character, definitely. I definitely really enjoyed that. And then the last character I'm going to talk about is Mary Elizabeth Mastrotonio as Gina, who is a very important character. She's Tony's sister, and he's extremely overprotective of his sister. Literally, he's the kind of brother that if he sees his sister with anyone, he'll just kill them right away, because he does not want anyone touching his sister or having sex with his sister or using her sexually. And that's something I thought was really interesting about his character, just how much of a family man he was, how much he cared about his family, definitely. I mean, he might have cared a little bit too much about them, especially something that happens, which I'll talk about, but I thought that was amazing. I thought their relationship overall was amazing. That was definitely something else I enjoyed. I didn't expect to get into his family as much as this movie did, but it really did get into his family history, which is something I definitely really enjoyed. Let's get to the directing here. So overall, as I said, everyone in the acting department is great. Everyone gave a great performance. All the supporting roles were great as well. Let's get to the directing. The directing by Brian De Palma. Wow, the directing is something else here. This was not directed by Martin Scorsese, but it feels like a Martin Scorsese movie. And that's because of how good Brian De Palma did this directing. In fact, Martin Scorsese actually has praised this movie over the years, and that's awesome because he knows his shit, and Brian De Palma also knew what he was doing. He actually did a lot more Al Pacino movies. He did Carlito's Way, which I was originally going to watch, but I didn't, because I don't have it on Blu-ray, but I thought he did a perfect job directing this movie. One of the things I love is something that I'm going to quote Roger Ebert for a second, because Roger Ebert said this, and I kind of agree with him. The thing that works with this movie is that it's not crime drama cliches. It's watching people who are criminals, which it really is. I mean, you guys may think this is just bang, 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 the whole movie, like they're just like shooting guns and there's like a ton of action. Well, there is a ton of action, but there's just as much story as there is action. I love the way that Brian De Palma directed that. He really did a fantastic job with that, and his directing is by far one of the best parts of this movie, something that I absolutely loved about the movie, and he just did a fantastic job with his directing. The screenplay by Oliver Stone is fantastic here. It really is a very sharp screenplay. It's very dark, it's gritty, it really captures the dark and grittiness of the movie. There's some very quotable lines, of course, say hello to my little friend. I mean, who doesn't know that line? That's actually towards the end of the movie, so I find it kind of interesting that the most famous line in the movie is like the climax of the movie. But, just so many great lines here. You'll probably want to imitate Tony Montana when you're done watching this movie, honestly. That's a character that you'll never forget, and I think the screenplay by Oliver Stone was great, and I think he did a great job with that. Cinematography also really captures the dark and grittiness of the movie. When there's going to be an action scene, because there's very dark lighting, and there's a lot of, stuff going on there, when that's going to happen, and I thought that was great as well, and I thought cinematography overall was really great. The editing was great as well. This movie flew by like that. This movie's almost 3 hours long, and it flies by, and I was so surprised by how fast this movie flew by. I was like, wow, this movie's flying by. It's probably because of how into it I was. And the last thing I want to talk about is the score, because this was something I didn't actually know that I find very interesting about the movie. The score is like a horror score. It's very disturbing, it's very dark, it's very gritty, and I thought that was awesome. It really captured the dark and grittiness of this movie. Definitely something I really enjoyed. And a lot of these gangster movies don't really have scores, but I thought it was really cool this one. I mean, The Godfather yet has a score. Goodfellas doesn't really have one. Like, Goodfellas is more just like music that you hear in like the time period. But Scarface has like a really distinct score that's very dark and very eerie and really makes you more fearful of the character, that I definitely thought was really well done. That's something I definitely really enjoyed. I thought that was really good. Also, the soundtrack. I'm probably buying the soundtrack this movie because the soundtrack was great. I love all the 80s songs. The songs worked perfectly with the movie. I thought that was awesome. The movie actually starts and then it ends again at one point, which I think is really cool the way they did it. Like, it fades to black and then it comes back, and it's really cool the way they do that. That's definitely something I really enjoyed. And overall, it's my review for Scarface. Now I'm getting into the spoilers, which, guys, there are major spoilers here. You guys may know one of the spoilers because, I mean, everyone knows one of the things, but there's one that I had no idea about. Now, I'm going to talk about the spoiler that I did know, and then I'll talk about the one thing that I didn't know, because it literally I was so shocked by what ended up happening. Okay. So I knew going into the movie that he was gonna die. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone knows that he's gonna die. You can just tell while you're watching the movie that he's gonna die. But the second half of this movie really did become a tragedy, I have to say. I mean, everyone that Scarface cared about, pretty much everyone that Tony Montana, cared about, pretty much left him. And you kind of can't blame them for leaving him. I mean, he became a very hard man to deal with because he thought he was invincible. He really thought that he was a lot more powerful than he was. Let's first talk about Elvira. I didn't expect Elvira to leave him the way she did, but when she's just like, I can't deal with you anymore, I'm done with you, I was very surprised by how abruptly she left him like that. I thought that was very surprising, and it was an amazing scene as well because you see that he really did care about her, and that's something I definitely enjoy, is that Tony Montana is not a heartless man. He just thought he was a lot more powerful than he was, and it got him really, really pissed off when she left him. I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought she was going to die. I didn't think she was going to just leave him. But wow, she actually packed up and left him, and I thought that was an amazing scene we saw. I mean, we really saw that she really could not deal with him anymore. She loved him, but she really could not deal with what he was doing anymore, and I really did feel bad for him because of that, because, he accused her of being infertile because of her drug use, and she just had to leave him because he just became so hard to deal with, and all their fights and everything, she just couldn't deal with anymore. I thought that was crazy. However, what I did not know about this movie was, of course, when he finds out that Manny married Gina, and he thought that he was having sex with Gina, kills Manny, which I freaked out about, because I'm like, that's your best friend you just killed, your partner in crime, how the fuck could you kill him? And he actually killed him like that, and then I felt so bad when Gina revealed that they just got married, and they were going to tell him and everything, and I thought that was just really sad overall. I felt so bad for Tony. You see the look on his face, he's like, what the fuck did I just do? I don't know what I'm going to do, and then the next second, his sister dies, and that was even worse to see, and it really just shows that he couldn't control who he'd become. He really was becoming a monster, and I don't think he ever really realized that. He never thought that he was the monster he really was, but he really was this monster, and he wasn't someone that, he was very well respected, but he was a monster, and he had to die. Honestly, when he died in the movie, he had to die. I mean, he was just killing those men one by one. I knew he was gonna die. It was towards the end of the movie, and I knew he died, but it was an amazing way. Honestly, he had to die, and I love what the end of the movie's trying to show. Of course, there's that statue that reads, "The world is yours," and it really does show that Tony pretty much controlled everyone's lives in his family. I thought that was really good. That's definitely something I thought was really great, and the way the movie ended, I thought was just perfect, honestly. I love it they end with his death. There's nothing else after, because there's nothing after death. There's nothing else to see. I mean, his best friend's dead, his sister's dead. I mean, the woman that he loved left him. There's no one left to focus on. It's just really sad overall. So I did not expect this movie to become as much of a tragedy as it did, and I really do commend them for doing that. It's definitely something I really enjoyed. Especially because the first half of this movie even had some funny parts to it. I wasn't expecting them to go as far as they did in terms of death, but I love that they did that, and that's definitely something I loved about Scarface, and one of the reasons I love the movie so much. It really just added this extra layer to the movie. Just the emotional part of it really added something to it, and really made me come full circle with this character, and full circle with this movie, and really is what made me realize that this is probably going to end up being one of my favorite movies of all time. I absolutely love Scarface. Highly recommend you guys check it out if you haven't, because it is a masterpiece. It is as good as everyone says it is. A lot of people say this movie's a lot of fun. I will say this, there are some very fun scenes in this movie. You can have a lot of fun with the action scenes, but the second half of this movie, just know that when he becomes a drug kingpin, the movie is no longer fun. The movie is now a dark, depressing story of his rise and fall, of his rise to power and fall of, like, everything else, basically. And it's just really sad, and I thought they handled it very well, and that's one of the reasons why I absolutely love Scarface. Highly recommend you guys check it out if you haven't seen it, because it is a masterpiece. But that's basically my review of Scarface. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you guys saw this movie if you have seen it. I'm very, very happy I watched this movie. I at first was like, I don't know if I want to watch this movie right now, but I was very happy I did. Highly recommend you guys check it out if you haven't. It definitely is a movie that I think you guys have to see at some point in your lifetime. If you love movies like Goodfellas and Godfather now, is as good as Goodfellas and Godfather. It's not as good as Goodfellas, obviously. Goodfellas is still my favorite gangster movie of all time. And I still have yet to see Godfather Part 2, which that's going to be one of the last classic movies I watch, but very happy I watched this. Highly recommend you guys check it out if you haven't. Let me know what you guys think of this movie. You have seen it. Overall, I loved it, as I said. But that's basically my review. Hope you guys enjoy it. I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for another classic movie review. So I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.